Let's bring in Dave Shannon, America's baby daddy. Uh, Dave's got 7 kids with his wife out in Idaho. I can't think of anybody more qualified to talk about this topic than Dave. I mean, his resume says that he is the ultimate expert on this. So, Dave, when you see billboards in Richmond, Texas, and this group, Stop Having Babies, or stophavingbabies.org or stophavingkids.org, is actually based out of Portland, Oregon, not far from you. Obviously, there's no billboards like this in Idaho. You would have burned it down. So, Dave, what do you make of this?
Oh man, Jason, I'm kind of split on this. Looking at the billboard and knowing the people who put it on, I actually agree with the billboard. I think that those people who put up the billboard need to follow their own advice and not have any more kids. And then I think they should do something else. I have advice for them. I think they should go all the way because it's not safe enough just not to have kids. I think they need to stop having sex totally, cut off their penis, sew the whole thing up, and just tuck it away. And then in one generation, we will be done with this kind of foolishness. So that's my first thought on this. Is like, man, I'm with y'all. Y'all go do this for the next 50 years and let us, real folks who have been baptized through the power of the Spirit and been saved in Christianity because of Jesus Christ, let us go ahead and fix the rest of the world. So me and my wife might have to pick up another one because they don't have to have any more kids, but we'd be all right. So that's my first thought on this. I think that they should take their own advice. And just to say one more thing on that part, Jason, they have been turned over to their own lusts and desires, like Romans 1 talks about, right? He has turned them over so that God is like, this is what you want? Okay, have at it. Paul talked about this too. If they want to try to find the Judaizers in Galatians, if they want to try to find some sort of way to be righteous outside of the work of Jesus Christ, then go ahead and cut it all the way off just to make sure that you get it all done. So that's my first thoughts on this. Now, let me talk to the people who really matter. I think that we as Christians need to look at something like this and see this almost the same way that we see the Second Amendment and our gun rights. We need to see these folks. Think about this poster saying this, Jason. We need to make no more guns, no more ammo. Stop making ammo, stop making guns. If we saw that sign, every person who understands their Constitution would be like, I wonder why these folks don't want me to have ammo. And I wonder why they don't want me to have a gun. You know what? Just because they told me that today, you know what I'm going to go do? I'm going to order me some more ammo, and I'm going to go buy me one more gun. It doesn't matter how many guns I have. Obviously, because of this billboard, I need one more. And this goes back to what Pastor Anthony was saying earlier when he was talking about Psalms, saying that a child is like an arrow in the hand of a mighty warrior, right? Now, if you keep on going down that Psalm, it says that he won't be made ashamed when he meets with his enemies in the gates. Mm-hmm. Our enemy knows that children are the way in which their kingdom falls. When we, as fathers and parents, raise our children up and fashion them and send them and shoot them out into the world, because we're the mighty warriors that the scriptures are talking about. We fashion and shape and raise our kids in the fear and admonition of the Lord. And when we shoot them out there, we're saying, oh, man, we need an attorney general because he's not being faithful. You know what? Andrew, this is what you're going to be. Pew! We shoot him out. We train him up. We raise him up to be a godly man who fears the Lord. And he you know what? You're going to be a good lawyer. You know, we need some godly teachers out there, ones who don't want kids to have their penises cut off and doesn't want to make them man or woman. You know what? Lydia, you're going to be a teacher. We find that this is where the culture is lacking. We raise our kids to fear God, and we shoot them out. When we go and meet with our enemy at the gates, we have an arsenal. And we should see these kind of things. Anytime we see fruitlessness from the world, trying to get us to be fruitless as an attack on our arsenal, the same way that we see it when it comes to guns.
Dave, I'm going to follow Anthony with this. What do you think it might take that this is connected to the whole climate argument? That part of the climate argument is to convince people there's too many of us. Quit having kids. We're destroying the earth. And I see these two movements working hand in hand, and that's why they promote this whole, and this climate change thing has been going on under different names since the 1960s.
Yep.
I've seen newspaper articles where they were predicting the Ice Age and this and that, and it's going to be over with by 1983. These two deals are climate and abortion and stop having babies. They're all working together in collaboration.
Absolutely, Jason. You've nailed it right on the head. Matter of fact, I'll even take it a step further and said the climate issue and not having babies is really a Trinitarian heresy. And what I mean by that is it's trying to say something about the Godhead that's not true and describe a different type of God that actually exists. The Trinity, when it came together to form the universe, the interaction and engagement of the Trinity was so overflowing that it created a world of overflowing and replenishing possibilities, just like the God that made it. And so what we're trying to say about creation is that it doesn't have the resources to continue operating in the same way that God has made the world to operate that reflects him. And so when we look at the universe, it's still expanding, it's still going because it's reflecting its creator. Man and woman made in the image of God to reflect their creator. Their love produces fruitfulness, just like within the Trinity. My children are a reflection of my love to my wife. Me and her and our relationship. And Jason, obviously you can tell, I really love her. I got 7 kids. So fruitfulness is a reflection of a triune God who's made a triune world that replenishes it. We're the only planet that I know of that has fruit that was put on it. God has designed the world so that the resources, like Pastor Anthony was saying earlier, continue to replenish themselves because it says something about him. And what the climate change and all the climate stuff wants to do is to try and paint a different form of transcendent God, one that says you can't replenish, there's limited resources, and unless you manage it with grasping for stuff, you will die. That is not the God that made the world. He doesn't ever end. He has no end. And so he's made a world that reflects the nature of who he is and the fact that it replenishes and serves. One of the things that fruitfulness does is that it takes care of the next generation, like Pastor Anthony was saying. Having children takes care of grandparents and parents, and it continues to go that way. One of my kids can change the dynamics of the whole world just by coming up with a way to serve their neighbor. And that's just one of my kids that can do that. I mean, fruitfulness is a blessing. And when we fight against it and to try and do what the climate change community does, we are saying something different about the God that made the world. So I think you're dead on.
Anthony, before the show, you made the comment to me about put in perspective, like, there's really not as many of us out here as they're trying to make you believe.
Yes, mathematically, if we took every person and stood them side by side and arranged them in a row, we could all stand in the state of Texas. All 8 billion of us could stand in Texas. So God has a whole lot of this world to take care of us. And he himself, as Dave keeps mentioning, he is not just a resource. God is the source to help to sustain the creation that he made. The issue that I see with some of these movements and groups, Paul addresses this in Romans chapter 1. You heard Virgil talk about it. I think Dave may have alluded to Romans 1 as well. Paul says in Romans 1:25, they exchanged the truth of God for a lie and worshiped and served the creation rather than the creator, who is forever praised. So when we shift our focus and our worship to anything other than God, we're moving it to creation versus the creator. When we see one another, we're seeing the creator. When we see a fruit tree that comes from one seed, but it bears fruit that has several seeds and it just continues to go on and on and on, we're seeing a reflection of what God has done.